Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Irfan Hussain, and our today's video is based on the great book by a great linguist, Peter Roche, that is Introduction to Phonetics and Phonology. And our today's discussion will be based upon the first chapter of this book. What are the key points of this chapter? There are phoneme and other aspects of pronunciation, accent versus dialect. We will try to understand what is the difference between accent and dialect, and the received pronunciation and its other names. These are three key points, and these three key points will cover three different topics, and these will be very much helpful for your examinations. So first of all, phoneme and other aspects of pronunciation. It must be clear that phoneme is the smallest unit of sound. Let us read in this slide. The phonemes are a small number of regularly used sounds in any particular language, and these may be vowels and consonants. Phonemes are divided in two classes, vowels and consonants. And let me clear it here for the beginners that these vowels and consonants are never letters. We cannot say that letters are vowels or consonant, rather their sounds are vowels and consonants. Phoneme is the smallest unit of sound, as I told you just now. For example, the vowel in the word pin and pen, you can see the difference. Pin and pen are different phonemes. Not only that, the consonants are phoneme, as I told you that the vowels are also phoneme. So pin and pen have different vowel phonemes, and the consonants at the beginning of the word pet and bet, you see these are two different sounds, pet and bet, in the beginning. So these are two different phonemes. In English language there are 44 phonemes in the received pronunciation, and out of these 44, 24 sounds are consonant sounds and 20 are vowel sounds. Now it is to understand what is the difference between phoneme and letters. Because of the notoriously confusing nature of English spellings, it is particularly important to learn to think of English pronunciation in terms of phonemes rather than letters of the alphabet. You see, even in Pakistan, in my country, now it is the trend of teaching the children, young children, to learn the sounds of the letter. They not only say that it is B, but also they say it is B. They not only say C, but they also they say that it is Sir and K. So phonemes are necessary to teach sounds. Phoneme, when we say phoneme, it means the sounds. The sounds of the letters are more important now, and they are more concentrated. One must be aware, for example, that the word enough, you see, it is not enough, it is enough, begins with the same vowel phoneme as at the beginning of inept. See, enough, inept. So it is not a, it is e, and that enough ends with f sound, that is in stuff. So in English this is very much complicated. It is to be noted that English is a non-phonological language. What is non-phonological language? That it is not necessary that every sound will correspond to the letter. You see, O, U, G, H, it is not F, but it gives a sound of F, fur. And if you see another example, like the word off, it is not off, it is ov. So this is why it is necessary to learn the phonemes of the language. Now it is to understand what is the difference between accent and dialect. Languages have different accents. They are pronounced differently by people from different geographical places, different social classes, from different ages, and from different educational backgrounds. These are the four key reasons of the variation of the speaking style of the people. The word accent is often confused with dialect, but these are not the same thing. Accent is not dialect. We use the word dialect to refer to a variety of a language which is different from others, not just in pronunciation but also in such matters as vocabulary, grammar, and word order. I already have delivered a detailed lecture on dialect. You can consult that lecture to have better understanding of it. Differences of accent, on the other hand, are pronunciation differences only. You see, in dialect we have the differences of vocabulary, grammar, and the order of the words, means syntax, but here in accent that is a difference of pronunciation only. And now receipt pronunciation and its other names. The term receipt pronunciation, RP, is now out of fashion and not acceptable anymore. Receipt pronunciation, usually abbreviated to its initials RP, is old-fashioned and misleading. What is receipt pronunciation? That it is known to be a kind of standard language that is used by in English education institutions, that is used by BBC, British Broadcast Corporation, that is used in media. That is, but there are only a fraction of native people who speak receipt pronunciation. That is a dialect actually. The use of the word receipt pronunciation is to mean acceptable or approved. That seems it implies that other accent would not be acceptable or approved of. That is the point of contradiction. When we use receipt for one accent, it means that we are neglecting others. And now it is not unicentral period, but it is there is a diversity that is acceptable in language and everything. That was a time in history there was English of British people that was thought to be the model or thought to be the standard, but now other natives also claim, because they are also English speaking countries like America, Australia, South Africa, Caribbeans, so they are all model for non-native people. As I just told you that it is BBC English, since RP is most familiar as the accent used by most announcers and news readers on BBC and British independent television broadcasting channels, a preferable name is BBC pronunciation. That is why we call it BBC pronunciation. This should not be taken to mean that BBC itself imposes an official accent. BBC doesn't impose it, but most of the anchor persons, announcers, readers use this accent. Scottish, Welsh, and Irish accents, you know that these are three other states that collaboratively make UK with England. United Kingdom has these four states: England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. Individual broadcasters all have their own personal characteristics, and an increasing number of broadcasting with Scottish, Welsh, and Irish accents, and they are being employed there. However, the accent described here is typical of broadcasters with an English accent, and there is a useful degree of consistency in the broadcast speech of these speakers. Now see various accents of Britain and United Kingdom. There are many different accents in England, but the range becomes very much wider if the accents, the whole Britain and United Kingdom are included in it. Britain, as I told you, that it is England, Scotland, and Wales, and also that is actually a term that is used for a colonizer country. When we talk about, when we say Britain, it means that it is the kingdom that colonized all other countries, and it's a colonial power. And when we say United Kingdom, it means that it is England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. That's a distinction that is most frequently made by the majority of English people is between northern and southern. Now, northern dialect and southern dialect, and northern accent and southern accent we have discussed in our lecture of dialect. Estuary English. Keep it in mind that we are now discussing various kinds of accents. Estuary is not any new accent of English language. The idea originates from the sociolinguistics observation that some people in public life who would previously have been expected to speak with the BBC or RP accent now find it acceptable to speak with some characteristics of the accents of the London or area, such as glottal stops. As if you remember, I gave you the example of I'm the bus. Instead of saying I'm in the bus, but they say I'm in the bus, or which would in earlier times have caused comment or disapproval. That was in earlier times disapproved, but now it is approved. Estuary is a kind of accent that has RP accent and accents of London area. That's a kind of mixture. And estuary means the wide part of a river where it nears the sea, fresh and salt water mix. So the estuary refer to its Tom's estuary as well, and this is why from this explanation you can understand that estuary is a kind of accent where other accents do mix. RP as BBC English. The recommendation to use the name BBC pronunciation rather than RP is not universally accepted. BBC pronunciation is used in recent editions of the Cambridge English Pronouncing Dictionary. You can see the reference here. Now there is another accent, that is public school pronunciation, PSP. In John's original English Pronouncing Dictionary of 1917, the term used was public school pronunciation for the standard British accent. That was in 1970. So you must keep in mind public school pronunciation. Now, General British, GB. Other writers have suggested that name GB, General British, as a term preferable to RP. So what they say that instead of saying received, the word received is objectable actually. You should use the word general. Since the accent being described belongs to England and citizens of other parts of Britain are understandably reluctant to accept that this accent is the standard for countries such as Scotland or Wales, and because it is not received, it is not acceptable for everyone, so it is better to use, according to the linguist, the word general instead of the word received. There is a BBC pronunciation research unit and that has an excellent pronunciation research unit to advise broadcasters on the pronunciation of difficult words and names, but most people are not aware that it has no power to make broadcasters use particular pronunciation. BBC broadcasters only use it on a voluntarily basis. So that is their success, that they have their language units, they keep on working, they do not let their language be spoiled as our language is being spoiled, as Urdu is being spoiled. Urdu sounds are being spoiled because there's no training, there's no check on it, but there is a training unit there in that is the BBC pronunciation research unit that gives guidance. But again, the individual freedom is not hampered, and this is not imposed on these people, on the British broadcasters. Rather, they are on their will whether they use it or not. Scottish and Irish accents. Peter Roche is of the view that having a completely free choice of modal accent for British English, it would be possible to find more suitable ones. Scottish and Irish accents, for example, have a more straightforward relationship between spelling and sounds, and as I told you earlier that British English is very much notorious, and there is a problem that it is non-phonological language. There's not a strong relationship between spelling and sound, but here in Scottish and Irish English accent, they have a better connection of spelling and sounds than the BBC accent. They have simpler vowel system and would therefore be easier for most foreign learners to acquire. So it is the point that RP is a model, not goal. The model chosen is BBC, but the goal is normally to develop the learner's pronunciation sufficiently to permit effective communication with native speakers. Goal is to acquire good speech. So when you imitate RP or when you acquire RP, it doesn't mean that it is your goal. Rather, it is a model. Your goal is to get a good speech, and it may be RP and it may deviate from it. And now the point here, good speech versus bad speech. Jones says, good speech may be defined as a way of speaking which is clearly intelligible to all ordinary people. That it is a way of speaking that a common person can understand it. And bad speech is a way of talking which is difficult for most people to understand. Here is an exercise for your practice. You can see these questions and you can answer these questions. I am very much hopeful that once you go through the answers of these questions, you will be clear with your idea of dialect and accent and phoneme. And these are very important topics that are necessary to understand to attempt a good examination. Thank you very much for listening this. Hope to see you soon with another video. Thank you.